chapter number 17. 1 Samuel, chapter number 17. Those of you with your Bibles, turn there. Those of you with electronic devices, click. I'm going to begin to read verse number 2. Is that okay? Saul and the Israelite army assembled in camp in the Elah Valley, where they got organized to fight the Philistines. Philistines took position on one hill while Israel took position on the opposite hill. There was a valley between them. A champion named Goliath from Gath came out from the Philistine camp. He was more than 9 feet tall. Verse number 32. David said, "Don't let everyone lose courage because of this Philistine." David told Saul, "I, your servant, will go out and get it." The episode I just read is a tale of tall versus short, big versus little, and strength versus weak. It is the church school and VBS account of the battle between David and Goliath. The setting for this event is a mountainous area in Judea overlooking the valley of Elah. On one side to the northeast are the Philistines. On the other side to the southwest are the Israelites. The Philistines have a giant of a man from Gath named Goliath. And for 40 days, twice a day, he has come out front and center, mocking the God of Israel and saying, "Give me someone from over there so we can fight." The results of the mocking and the invitation to fight has been met with only fear from the Israelites. After all, Goliath is only 9 feet tall. He's only bad Leroy Brown, the baddest man in the whole darn town, bigger than old King Kong, and meaner than a junkyard dog. But in verse 12, David, on a mission from his father to bring food to his brothers, stepped into the text. Now, David didn't mind the assignment from his father. As a matter of fact, he was rather excited because now he could see what was happening in the battle and how his big brothers were doing and faring as soldiers. But when he arrived, he's surprised and taken aback at what he found. This one dude, Goliath, albeit a giant, is holding the entire army of Israel at bay. But not only is he holding them at bay, but he's mocking and insulting them and ridiculing their God. And this is where I want to drive a nail this morning and hang my hat and talk about our theme, let your light so shine. We hear it every first Sunday at Holy Communion. After you have taken the bread and drank the wine, the preacher says these words: "Go and let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which art in heaven." And this morning I want to take a look at David. David, who besides Jesus is probably the most talked about figure in the Bible. Because I believe a look at David and what he did as a young man when confronted with Goliath will help in letting our light so shine. Is that all right? Y'all ain't saying it. I said it's all right if we look at David and his battle against Goliath to help us shine our light.
Yeah. All right.
The first thing I want you to know is your light can shine even if you are considered the least likely. As young adults and youth and even some adults, there's a tendency to feel inferior or less than or not as good as some of the people that you encounter. For some, it seems as if someone else is always better looking and smarter and faster and a better athlete and more popular than you are. But as we look at David, I want you to remember that David was the least likely among his brothers. When Saul came to Jesse's house to anoint the next king of Israel, they didn't even bring David in from the field. David's daddy paraded all of the other sons before Samuel, the ones that he thought were better looking and smarter and faster and more popular. But when the parade was over, after the best looking and the smartest and the fastest and the most popular had paraded by, Samuel said, "Do you have another boy?" And it's good that somebody be standing back and say, "Is there another boy?" I come to tell somebody this morning, you may not be the best looking or the smartest or the fastest or the most popular. You may be the least likely, but your light can shine. Because when it's all said and done, David, the least likely, was anointed to be king. When we come upon David in verse 26 of our text, this is the first time that we hear David speak vocally. And when David speaks in this text, he wants to know two things. Number one, what does the person get who defeats this Philistine? And number two, who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he could get away with insulting the army of God? The answer to the first question, they answered the first question, but the second question, they totally ignored. When David asked, "Who is this?" nobody said a word. This text is tailored to teach us that your light can shine even when those around you ignore you. Don't fall into the devil's trap of believing that you cannot be a light because you haven't been chosen of men, because God is the God of everybody. And even those who are considered unlikely belong to God. Y'all didn't get it that way. When Charles Spurgeon was a young adolescent preacher and preached at his church, some of the elders of the church told him, "Don't say another word." When he finished preaching, he said, "Don't say nothing else until you've grown some whiskers." They discouraged him because of his youth. But inside that church on that day was a man who would change his entire destiny. That man left the church and called the leaders of New Park Smith Church and told them, "I just heard a young preacher, 19 years old, with great wisdom and oratorical skills, and you would be wise to call him and and let him preach so that you hear it. And the rest is history, because Spurgeon went on to be known as the Prince of Preachers. And often young people like David sees themselves as living in the margin of obscurity because you don't fit a certain pattern. But don't worry about it. Just keep on living. I want to tell you this morning, don't stop doing what you're doing, even when you feel like you're in the margin. Just stay obedient, because one day your light will shine. In our text, David was doing what was before him to do. His assignment was to take bread to his brothers. Let me tell you something. Your assignment may seem small and insignificant, but don't stop, because God's writing all of it down. Number one, your light can shine when you're considered the least likely. Number two, your light can shine when those closest to you misrepresent you.
Preach.
Wow.
Preach.
David's family was no different than any of our families. Y'all understand that? David loved his brothers. And when he arrives, his elder brother, Eliab, sees him and immediately starts to denigrate David. What are you doing here? Why aren't you at home watching the sheep? Why aren't you somewhere taking care of the farm? But listen to what David tells him. David said, boy, I'm here because Daddy told me to come.